It only took us 10 times to get to class 6.
And we're gonna now be switching to either twice a month or every other week.
Oh, good. That'll work better.
And
Because I forget even what day we're doing it sometimes.
Especially sometimes it
Like
changes.
today, it's been so long, I forgot my book.
yeah, we have the option of November 30th. If we do it every other week, that's the week that'll be added.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's the 2nd and the 16th of November. See the 2nd on that
Yeah.
tablet, the 16th on that tablet. And then we have to decide, we're gonna do the 30th also? We're gonna do it every other week
the 30th of October.
of November.
Oh, November.
Yes, because this month with the holidays, it's too confusing to try and add it in now. So in
So
November.
when's the next one gonna be, in 2 weeks?
Yeah,
November
November 2nd, right here.
Yeah,
in 4
November
weeks.
2nd, and then
Yeah.
we'll just figure every 2 weeks
Yeah, look
after
at the
that.
bouncing dot.
Okay, well, that's easy, we do it every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so the 2nd, then the 16th, and we'll do it every other week, so November 30th. And then we end the year with December 14th and December 28th. And the 14th will actually be the end of the book.
Oh,
I thought we just ended the year.
But
I thought we already just ended the year.
New
We're
Year's
gonna
comes
end it again?
New Year's comes 6 times a year,
Right, we have a lot of New Years now,
Yeah.
don't we?
and we have 4 just in
It
Judaism.
was so simple before, I just had one, you know.
Yeah, I know.
now all the opportunities you
Now I
have
got
for
a
a
New
fresh
Year,
start.
Yeah.
New Year for my trees and
Yeah.
New Year for,
Yeah. Rosh Hashanah,
yeah.
Sukkot, Pesach, which is the other one, Shavuot. Okay, I think Shavuot is the 4th one. Then we have American New Year's. We can also say Chinese New Year in February, January, or February. And I'm sure we can come up with a few others if we want to, but I think that's good enough for now. So this comes to another decision we have to make. If we're going to continue into the next book,
It's that word right there.
Yeah,
That's
you
the
want to do a different
that's
book.
the transliteration of it.
the next book in the series, this book
Oh,
has
yeah.
4 books in the series.
Oh, if it's not enough.
Yeah, this one is Aleph isn't tough. The next one is Aleph. Aleph isn't enough.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
The new,
I've got
the
those
new
now.
would be.
you have them already. Okay.
I do, but you had something that you feel
It's
is more important.
No, I was gonna continue with the same book series, although I'm gonna call
That's
McAllister,
what I'm wondering, because.
McAllister, something like that, on Monday, because they're the ones who actually published the book. Because those who don't have the book, I'd like them to have me order it for them to the company that publishes, because they had some extra tools that they provide to
You
teachers.
know,
that
I've
work
got a
through them.
bunch of things at home that I
I mean,
think,
because
I like these books.
statutes.
But it'd be nice
ordinances,
to maybe supplement them with some of the charts with like the vowel points.
Okay,
With the names of them, you know, and what they are.
well, show me to me the next week or
This is,
two.
it's Van Pelt and Pratico, I think are their names. It's like a textbook for classes they use in college.
Okay,
And it's got a workbook, which I don't use myself much, I just use paper and pencil and
Okay.
write stuff. But it's got a lot of charts in there, like,
You know, it's
charts
just-
of all your vowel points, here, with the
It's
long
been
vowels,
solved,
short
you know,
vowels.
it's if they ate the bread.
I just, like for myself, it's nice to have that because here,
Gary, if you want to talk, can you,
And I don't think they
Gary.
did either, because they said, what is it?
Gary, if you want to talk, can you step out of the room for now, because it's,
yeah.
they're recording
Already
this,
trouble.
and your voice is probably going on the recording louder than
You
mine.
should do it like the nun I had in grade school. You need a ruler and you just go smack him on the hand real hard. That works really good.
I'm back in my place.
It's almost as good as a taser, the way the nuns use that thing.
Okay, but we're discussing about if we're going to continue on to the next book.
As in,
Okay.
if the class would continue, or would
Yes.
we do something else?
Well, that's
Instead
an
of-
option also. What would everyone prefer? Do you want to continue with the next book in the series? Because there are 4 books.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, the book's good. I mean, I
Okay.
like it. I like it. Oh, I was soon as, I've got more of a textbook at home, but it's got charts and stuff with the vowel points, just as an add it to it, you know, have some of those things that you've got reference material.
Or maybe some reference handouts.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one, I found the sheets that I had that went to different letters and the different words didn't match up with this class, so I have to come up with something else, and I'll bring that next class.
Yeah.
So we are going to continue. Those who don't have the book is $28.95, and I figure about $5 shipping, so that's $34. And if you can get that to me with enough time to order them, so I'm getting it through the company that publishes it, and through that company, they give some added tools for teachers to use and possibly tools for the students, so they're going to give some more things to add to the class.
Just pay you in cash.
Yeah,
Maybe.
well, since I don't like to carry money on Sabbath, what I suggest is, the box on the wall. Put it in there and write your name on
Oh,
it
okay.
and what it's for.
Very good. That'd be easy.
Yeah, and that way I could pick it up a different day.
Okay.
Okay, so we're doing our usual routine. We start with famous Jewish quotes, thoughts to remember. And then we'll do a little bit about the land. And what's happening today will make you dizzy. And what we're here for, the language. We're going to get into new letters. Well, one is sort of a new letter. It's a new pronunciation of a letter, in a manner of speaking. New vowels. We'll have 2 new roots and a few new words. And of course, some prayers, which I have one on here, and others we're going to look at the book, and I was going to see if I could look them up in the prayer book also and go through them that way. And my new rule is time to do away with transliterations. And with that, what I'm suggesting is not only here, but we're in the service and they have the Hebrew and the transliteration. Try and ignore the transliteration. It's not, because if all you do is learn the words in the class and you look at the prayers we talk about in the class, you're never going to get to a point where you can actually say the prayers normally. So you have to start learning to recognize the prayers themselves rather than saying, okay, yeah, that's the Hebrew, I've learned that one. That's the transliteration. It just doesn't work. And so let's go to our Jewish quotes, because they're thought-provoking and it's a Jewish tradition. First one, Torah is not education, it's transformation. And that was said by Rebbetzin Dana Weinberg. Next one, we saw a version of who is wise, one who learns from every man. Who is strong, one who overpowers his inclinations. Who is rich, one who satisfied with his lot. And who is honorable, one who honors his fellows. And that's from Ben Zoma. It's the beginning of the 4th chapter of Ethics of Our Fathers, which is a good book to read. And last one, for one of my favorite Jewish people. There are 2 things that are infinite, the universe and man's stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. Can you guess who said that?
He's sure about man's stupidity, right?
Who said that? Albert Einstein.
Yeah, I was wondering. That's what's funny.
I like his.
That's a good one.
So after that quote, I have to add the reminder, do not take the Lord's name in vain. You know who wrote that.
Yes.
So for the land, today I'm just going to give a short few map versions. The fake one that everyone believes is true, you could see 1946, this is what they considered to be Palestine. 47, the UN partition, they thought this was Israel and all of this was Palestine. And then we got our Wonder War independence, all of this was Israel. And this over here, they thought was Palestine. And now, this is Israel, and you have a few dots here and here, and over here, that they say is Palestine. And now for the truth. Up to 1946, this was land as the British Mandate, which was the mandate was the homeland of the Jewish people. And yes, they did call it Palestine, but it wasn't Palestine like they were talking about now. And 1947 partition, which was rejected by the Arabs. So this was the map that everyone believes is accurate and true, but it was one that never was accepted and ratified.
Which the Jews agreed to do.
Yeah, we were willing to do that, even though if you look,
Arabs rejected.
yeah, if you look at the map for a state of Israel, it looks rather ridiculous if you look at the white parts. I mean, it's broken up into 3 parts. It's so easy for another country to take over. It makes no sense,
Oh,
but that's what they do to us. But they decide, let's have a war instead. And so, with their great decision of a war, this is what we wound up having. A lot more land. And you'll notice it doesn't call this area Palestine, it calls it Jordan. And then 1967, they came to take more land from us. Look how well that worked.
right.
And now, because everyone believes this up here, some areas are now, we have regions that are Palestine over here, and the Gaza Strip we have is under Palestinian Authority, so there are some areas they call Palestine. And unfortunately, since 1995, when we gave them Gaza, there are people who were born in that land that were born in an area that was called Palestine. They believe that's what it always was. This is where they were born.
So the two-state solution, as I see it, was that a Palestinian state existed within the state of Israel. That's putting an enemy right in your heart.
yeah,
No
well-
wonder that's rejected by them.
That's what they're trying to do now, but the two-state solution they had back here was planned Arab state over here, Gaza, and more area here and here. They were sort of breaking it up to make sure that we would lose it quickly.
But I mean, you see northern parts that are still considered Israel.
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
And,
yeah. 1, 2, 3
you know,
different areas.
my goodness, that's putting your enemy in everywhere you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. The British didn't really like the idea of Israel, but they're willing to go along with it. So they're
I mean,
trying to find a way of making it not last.
And we're not showing what it's really gonna be in the end. The
No.
land that God said it's supposed to be
Right.
is much bigger than all of it.
And
Then
also, if
It'll
you
go
take,
clear down to Ethiopia.
and if you go to the Balfour Proclamation from 1917 instead of the one we ratified in 1921, all this area that says Jordan was actually part of Israel.
Right. And all of down towards Egypt and down there. So it's gonna be one day
Yeah.
Israel.
Of course, there should have been another saying up there that you could have put up there, and the definition of insanity
Yeah.
of doing the same thing, and thinking something different's going to come out of it.
Well, if you look at 3,500 years of history, the world is very insane. I don't think we need to say more on that. So that's all we're going to go into about Israel right now. If you look at what's happening right now, Hezbollah is in the process of picking their next leader to see how quickly he can be killed. They got Nasrallah, and now they had someone that they appointed who's going to take Nasrallah's place, and he's dead already.
Yeah.
the head of their intelligence is dead. So much for their intelligence. And now Iran has decided that no one is doing their dirty work for them, so they're trying to do it themselves, and they're proving how ineffective they are.
And then some of those Iranians got hurt pretty bad too, that they had some of the cell phones.
Yeah. Some of their leadership was
Yeah.
actually
Some of the leaders.
with Hezbollah, and theirs blew up also. While they were claiming we're not involved, yeah,
They're
then
involved.
why your ministers have Hezbollah phones and then blowing them up?
Yeah.
The language. Yeah, I didn't forget to take that out of your subtitle. Oh well. Well, if you want to add a subtitle. Okay, good. And we dedicate this lesson to the letter V. I thought you'd like that especially.
V.
Yes,
Well,
the letter V.
involved.
So the new letters we have
Bet.
vet,
That.
and we have
Oh,
vav. Yes, very good. Let's talk about the first one, even though we sort of have talked about it before. Letter vet. Vet is the second letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The differences between bet and vet is the dagesh, or the dot that would be in the middle. With bet, it has a ball or a dot, so remember the ball, the B. With vet, it's void of a dot, so remember the V that way. The letters actually have the same meaning, same numeric value, if the pronunciation is a little different in how they're said.
I always learned that saying, Begad Kafat.
What?
Begad Kafat.
Mhm.
Beit, Gimel, Dalet, the Fei,
Yeah.
and Fatah, and Tav, what's the other one? I missed one. But there's six of them.
Yeah.
They got Dagesh letter.
Yeah.
Take a Dagesh.
And some of them are changed to the sound,
Kaf.
but not all of them.
Kaf, Fei, and Tav. Right there.
Yeah.
It's Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Kaf,
Yeah.
Fei, and Tav.
Mm-hmm.
Begad Kafat.
Okay.
They do that.
The baggage letters.
The ones that take a Dagesh.
Yeah.
Like Fei and Pei,
Right.
Kaf.
Baggage, as you said.
Yeah.
And the Tav in some places it'll have, without the Dagesh, it has an S sound, but we're not talking about that letter right now. Or maybe, yeah. No, not. And the next letter is the Vav. Vav is the sixth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's a hook. It connects heaven to earth, extends Hashem's perfection into the world he created, and many people say it represents the ladder of Jacob, Yaakov, rooted in earth with its head in the heavens. It carries within it the 6 days of creation, being the sixth letter, and the 6 directions, up, down, back, forth, right, left. It can be carried with other letters. The one I mentioned specifically is the Aleph. If you remember, it's at an angle, and you have a Yud above and a Yud below is how you make up the Aleph. So Yud, the hand of God, presence above and below, and the Vav unites them together. It connects them together. So Hashem's presence is always with us. But the Vav has another interesting feature to it also. It can be a vowel or a consonant. We've already learned 2 of the vowels. The one that makes it sound like an O, and the one that makes it sound like an U. You might remember the names of them. I just remember the
Shurik,
sound.
Hirik,
Okay.
Shurik would be the U sound. Shurek.
Yeah,
And then the other is a Hirek, which is a dot above a letter,
Okay.
the I sound
okay,
over the vowel.
yeah, it's good,
I remember those sounds. I
Yeah.
studied that a couple of years ago.
yeah. It's important to remember the sounds, though. And here shows the vowels. You have the O and the O and the vav, vav, ve, ve, vor, some examples. I'll see that more. And the vav, again, at the beginning of the word is the word and, which you see a lot in the Torah. And this interesting thing with the Torah is the way they break up the sentences. A lot of times a sentence will begin with the word and. And part of that is, I'll get into the New Testament, part of that is that the way the Torah was originally written, there were no vowels and there's no punctuation. And so we created punctuation to break up sentences, which to try and make consistent the thought of the interpretations, which is good because it helps to clarify things, but in a way it also creates limitations because it takes away some of the other meanings that might be hidden in there if you move the punctuation differently. Like the first lines of the Torah, Bereishis bara Elokim es hashamayim ve'es ha'aretz. We translate, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Then Bereishis bara Sohu v'Hovu v'Hosha al Pnei Secham v'Ruach Elokim melech Eshes al Pnei Hamayim. And the earth was without form and void amidst the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovered over the earth. And third line, Vayhi Or, Vayhi Or. Now, if you make that, some people say that should be one sentence. The Bereishis doesn't have a natural translation. We say in the beginning, because many people say it's the closest to what it means. But you could say, at first when God created the heaven and earth, the earth was without form and void in the midst of the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God hovered over the waters, and God said, light exists, and light exists. Because there's no change in tense there also. We've put that into our own interpretation, especially since time didn't exist yet. So we get into part of the way God creates things is by the sound. He said, He or. The sound creates the vibration which manifests in existence. And existence comes into being by God's word and by God's thought. It's not something that happens over time. The thought of God's thought of it existing whirls it into being, in a manner of speaking. And when you translate it the way they translate it, you lose that. And it's an important part of understanding what God's nature is and what He's capable of doing. So now, new vowels. This may look sort of familiar in a way. Yeah, I'm not getting into the names of them. I don't even know if the book mentions the names of them.
I just know it
No,
is off.
What?
I just know it is off.
Well, they're reduced vowels. It's called a reduced.
Yeah. And this sounds like ah, just like without the two dots. Sounds like ah. And it's it's usually when you add the two dots before the line, it's used mostly under silent letters or guttural, like an aleph or an ayin. You may find it more often under, or a ches. You may find it more often under. Very much like the other one sounds, eh. Again, that one you'll find more under silent or guttural letters also. And then just putting the dot there doesn't really show much, but it's the dots under the letters, which has a short sound of E, because they consider a vowel when you add a yud after it also, which is an E sound also, but it's held a little longer. And if that's where the difference is between the two, because the E, let's think with E, in the manner of speaking, the part you don't fully hear as part of it. And those are our new vowels. So we are going to see them in use. As I said, it's usually pronounced with a longer sound than the previous vowel.
I think those first two, that gets confusing because we don't have those in English, reduced vowels.
No, we don't.
Those are, they're different. The
Yeah.
others just have a sound, but these, they change by where they are in the sentence, like they, or where they are in
Mhm.
position.
In common usage though, they do sound like I.
Yeah. When you, in reading it, most people pretend the two dots on most places it's silent, and here you have a silent vowel and a vowel with a sound. And so, in most Jewish reading, the same as if you didn't have the silent vowel before it. Like Israel, Israel, Israel. The two vowels blend together in a manner.
Right.
If you had just the A there, it'd be Israel. If you have the AE there, it's Israel. You don't hear a difference really.
Right.
So you have that similarity in the way they're doing it. And I can't say why they created that, because original Hebrew didn't have vowels at all, so some inner meaning to why they needed to have that subtle difference put there that I'm not aware of, and maybe later on in further books we'll get into discussing some of that.
You know, where I learned it was from that textbook, and
Yeah,
they give a different sound even from the short A to
Yeah.
the long A, and ah. You
Yeah.
know, they will give, and then they pronounce the Vav like Wah,
mm-hmm.
not a V, it's a Wah.
That's uncommon.
Yeah.
these
I
days.
mean, that's how it is in, text, like if you learned it in school, that's how
Well,
they teach. No.
I had 5 years of Hebrew school and never
Well, I
taught
didn't
that
mean
way.
there, but I mean like in the college.
In the
They
college,
do it
yeah.
different. A Vav is Wah.
There's probably 50 or 100 different
I
dialects,
don't know.
actually, if you go into it, and you can get many variations, but which are the standard accepted ones is what we're dealing with.
Right. It's
And so,
complicated.
yeah, it gets complicated.
It does get complicated.
And we have new root words. And who's going to bounce in there? The Aleph, Hey, and Vav. Or Hey. That means love or affection. Or Hav. That's a Hey. If, can you see it on that? It shows the space in there. I know it looks a lot like the hay looks a lot like a cat at times, so you have to look for that space over there. You have to get used to that. And we have a second root that we learned also in this class. Shuv, which is return or come back. Yes, and that's one of the words that's going to come up in just a minute. This is where teshuva is used a lot.
I guess it's a good need to learn.
Yes, which is why I found it interesting that our delay caused this class to turn up at this time, because we
Yeah.
learned about love and repentance. What's the focus of these 10 days? God's love and our repentance. So I guess there's a reason we had to have the reviews for 2 months in between, so we could have this time
Maybe we'll
to...
learn something after all.
What?
Maybe we'll learn something after all.
Yeah, and maybe we'll remember it also. So we have our new words. There's ahava. And ahava means love. There's another word that means love also, and I'm going to talk a little about that in a little while. And then, as we mentioned, teshuva is another word we learned, repentance. And for this grouping, we will add ohev, which is lover. We have ahuv, the sweetheart or beloved. We have another word which means beloved also, which is dodi.
Oh, yeah, look high to be,
Look,
come with what?
yeah. And there's a phrase that's used a lot of Jewish people inscribed on the inside of wedding rings, or some even on the outside. Ani l'dodi v'l'dodi li, I am my beloved
We should
is
learn that.
mine.
That's one we don't sing. We should sing.
Well, we tried doing that on the Friday evenings, but we haven't really caught on doing the
Well, that's
songs
what I meant. I was
consistently.
talking to her, like, when we go to McCaskill, that's one we haven't done, so it's good to,
Because it's usually done in the synagogue, so
Yeah.
it
yeah.
hasn't occurred to me to do.
Really,
it.
you don't do that at home, you?
No, there's some that are just done prayer. I see a hand raised. Do you have a question?
I got a question on this. So,
Yeah,
ahuv,
yeah,
if you were to say it to your wife,
yeah,
you would say ahuva.
yeah. Or la'ahu, adding the lamed before it's the my to it.
Okay.
So my beloved.
Or you were saying if it's a woman, wouldn't you put
What?
the I? He was saying that you.
Yeah, you put the I.
If it was to a woman, if it was to a man, you'd say, who?
But like,
I know I probably messed up because we're getting into masculine and feminine.
Yeah, and that's-
before it's time. I'm
Yeah, and that's, I
sure.
think, in the next book.
but,
Yeah.
that is how you do it. But like in Israel,
Yeah.
you'll find like store clerks will say it to their customers. It's just a term. It doesn't necessarily mean like
Like they say, honey.
romantic.
They
love.
tell you honey here in the South.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so, yeah, similar
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah. And we have Mahav, which is a suitor or a lover. A longer word. Ahav Ravim. What do you think that would mean? I'll give you a hint, it's in the book.
Flirtation.
What?
Flirtation.
Yes, that's flirtation.
I didn't know it. I looked it in the book.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, there's more work into flirtation than actually expressing love. So the word's longer. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it. And we still have a few more words to add.
Philanderer.
I have fun.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, when you deal with love, you have to have those variations, unfortunately.
Was that Ahavan?
What?
Is it
Ahavan. And we have Yeah.
Milha.
Mirhav, yes. And that's enamored or lovesick. We're talking about words variations on love, you have to have ones like that also. And then Ahavtor. I'm sure you've seen that one before. Yes? The Ahavtor, yes. What?
The Hafta?
Yeah. I'm going to bring that up again in a little while. And that's, and you shall love.
Beginning of,
Oh, I just got that.
yeah, the Shema,
Ahavan.
Yeah. Ahavazri.
the Hafta, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought it was just in Michelle.
Now it's and you shall love. After
How do you pronounce the lovesick one again? It's,
loves it.
yeah,
M-
it never.
Ma'ohav.
How is it?
Ma'ohav.
Yeah, vowels.
Yeah.
Vowel.
But this is at the beginning, so it's not silent.
Yeah, vowel.
So how we doing with the letters and words today? Very basic. So I didn't do a lot on the slide for prayers.
The translation is the hard part, because the words sound
Yeah,
kind of the same, but knowing the English word for
the
it.
translation, after you hear it over and over, you start to get it. So that takes time. My concern more is learning to recognize reading the words. Because one of the ways you'll get to learn it more is when you start reading words in the prayers or in the Torah. After a while, you start to say, I know this word. I know this word. It starts all pieced together. And so the goal is to be able to read this next paragraph. Who wants to try?
Behalta et Adonai Eloheinu.
Yeah.
Levaveka. Levaveka. Levaveka.
Hmm? Should I go to an easy way of
Yes,
it?
you got it.
Level folks.
Let me go to an easy way of reading. This is, if you had to sit down and read this from the Torah itself, this is how it would appear, basically like this. There are variations depending on who the scribe is. But this is the way you would see it on the Torah scroll itself.
And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength.
See, he can read it. He can translate it already. Yeah. This is a more traditional script, the same thing.
So that's before the
What?
vowel points.
Yeah, and this is still before the vowel points. And then we get to finally the way we're learning it now, that you saw what the goal is going to be, that eventually one day you'll be able to, if someone doesn't show up to do the Torah reading, that you could think, I can do this. And for us to be able to learn it well enough to be able to go and do it almost on the spot. We may not know the cantillation, but we know the words.
But so the Masoretes preserved the way the words were pronounced, basically.
Yeah. And then this is with the actual vowels. So, someone want to try reading this? Elohecha. Elohecha.
Yeah, Elohecha is, well, that didn't look like that looked like a hay to me. That's why it looks like
Yeah, there is a hey.
Eloheinu.
Elohecha. That's a chaf. At the end, the chaf.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, so kaf,
Yeah.
so hay. Oh,
B'chol, levavcha,
Leva, or leva,
b'chol, levavcha, ub'chol, nafshecha, ub'chol, ma'odecha. I know, it'd be easier if you all sang it, but. And now, if you add the cantillation in, let's see if I can figure this out. When you get to a Torah, it's where you, let's see, where is he? You have to es Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshecha b'chol miyodecha for hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher hanochi mitzavo hayom al levavecha. So you see the subtleties in.
That's the way we should read it. That sounds better.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to Kelly.
Yeah.
You got your, sign up.
If
You
you're
got
at
it.
the
You have an
synagogue,
opportunity
it's
because
in
to
stuff
sign
like
up.
that.
Now in the synagogue we don't read with cantillation, but we don't sing it either. It's read, most synagogues will read it silently, some will read it together. But it's just that we have to ask certain,
Well, I was gonna say, but like,
I
when you're teaching your kids and like you're doing it, especially at night for the bedtime shema, you generally do sing it and it sounds more similar to that and nothing like what you guys do.
Oh, no, the one that we do, Jonathan made up.
You
Oh,
know, Jonathan wrote it.
They were brand new at that time, and
Yeah.
Jonathan and Sandy were teaching Hebrew from like a book like all the, like just a very basic beginner,
Yeah.
kind of a one letter at a time. And they wanted to try to do something, so he made a song
Oh, I see.
that would make it
If
easier.
when you
Yeah.
put it to music, it seems like you,
people,
Well, I'm not criticizing it.
Yeah,
It's
people-
different.
No,
Yeah.
everybody
You know,
has
I
where
think
it
it
come
was
from.
Jonathan's intent.
right,
But they didn't know that there was an alternative.
yeah,
So
well, it's the way it's written, it's all
Yeah,
right.
so
They
like
sure did put it to music, so he did.
one of the traditional ways that, like you said, you do it with kids or at home, and forgive my voice, but it sounds like Ve'ata et Adonai Elohecha b'chol lavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובפניך וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. So that's like how my kids
She
learned
should
it.
do the cantor next time.
Never. But like if you told one
Now
of my kids,
If she did the cantilations up there, nobody else would have the nerve to go up there and do it. She does it so well.
but yeah, if you
I
grabbed
would
one of
like
my
us
kids
to
and said,
learn.
how do you say the Ve'ahata? That's probably the only way they know it, so.
Yeah.
That's actually-
I'll probably never
It's
remember,
like, why
other than
do
how
you-
we sing it here, because we do it every week.
People,
My thought is like, this, why remake the wheel? And because we didn't have any, because you know, you grab the hold of the CT, it says in the end time, people will grab a hold of it, you know, to show us how to do things.
uh-huh,
We didn't have anybody here,
yeah,
so we had to make it up. But I'm like, well, now that we know there's a different way, why reinvent the wheel? Why not? Because if we're gonna be in unity and as a whole,
mhm,
however that works out when the kingdom comes, there's gonna be one way, and most likely it'll be the other, you know, the way it's been happened. So I'm
Yeah.
like, why not learn it that way? I would really like to learn it the right way.
we could
Which
talk
is like,
about
since
that,
I've known Tequila, and I can ask questions, because I've been learning just from reading a book.
right,
Or I should learn rich books or videos online or whatever. But when you have someone you can ask, you learn so much faster.
yes,
Like, yeah.
Well, the one thing that bugs me is we sing that version of the Aaronic blessing that leaves Adonai out of the second line.
Yeah, I did notice.
Yair Panav Lalek, that's what we sing. It should be Yair Adonai Panav Lalek. And that was taken from Joshua Aaron, but he doesn't always sing it that way, because I've heard him sing it right with Yair Adonai Panav Lalek.
yeah,
But we say Yair Adonai, or Yair Panav Lalek, you know. Yes, Adonai, you know, Adonai Panav Lalek.
Well, the one I heard when I started was because I was at a
I
synagogue,
totally missed it.
was the,
We do
The
that,
regular one.
leaving Adonai out of the second one. Just, I don't know why.
there was only one way
And I
I
don't
ever
know why
heard it.
Joshua Aaron.
yeah,
And that was at Shem and places like that, because it's a very Jewish community, it's right in Dallas. And so when everybody starts making up all different ones, it's like.
Yeah. I know, the only way I've ever had the blessings was done by the Kohanes up front.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be done as a melody song.
Right.
The God by our cantor would be announcing each word for them to say and turn into a blessing.
One word at a time?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, the God by would say, yeah, and
I've heard it at the Western Wall.
What?
I've heard it at the Western Wall when they do it, and
Yeah.
they'll say it, and then thousands of people say it.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know that's how they always do it.
Yeah.
I just thought it was because.
most synagogues is just no one else says it's just the Kohens that say.
Oh,
it's their blessed
absolutely, and
people.
everybody knows that, so most people,
Yeah.
will- like even Joshua Aaron will say, I'm not a Cohen,
Yeah.
but I will, and even Ari, at the Land of Israel Fellowship, they're Jewish, but they're not Cohen. He'll say, I'm not a Cohen, but I'm
Yeah.
white.
Mhm.
And also, you're supposed to cover your face, because you're supposed to not look at the person saying it, because it's
Right.
coming from God.
When usually they say the second line quietly, like almost a whisper, don't they?
Well, from
I've
what I've
heard
got
that.
from Tehillah.
They'll say,
they'll
with their
say,
hands covered, and that's how I usually do it. I've read that and I did. When you say the Shema Israel,
Yeah,
that
and
part,
mine cut, yeah.
the
and then
portion is
Baruch, you
supposed to
said
be
very quietly. like,
whispered.
Yeah,
Baruch, yeah. and-
Yeah, so when you guys just say it, then what,
Well, don't say you guys, because I do
Well,
it very
here,
quiet.
here,
I do
I
it
was-
quietly.
the first few times I was like, whoa, it's so
Well,
loud.
when we learned it, you did the 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, and all that. And
Mhm.
it was like a whole
yeah, with the
thing.
Shema, basically, it invokes the power of God, that is, the light is so strong that you're
Yeah.
protecting your eyes so that it doesn't blind,
And,
God's light doesn't blind you.
I just
Protect
learned to
And,
do it
uh,
that way, and I just naturally do
Right.
that.
And the blessing, it says, because he says, I will put my name on the people, so that you don't look at the person
Mhm.
who's doing it, because he's doing it, not
Yeah.
that person.
Right,
So it's a distraction to look at that person, so I.
Well, he's doing it through
Yeah.
the Kohen, because that sign he makes, that is the name of God.
yeah.
But
The
technically, you aren't supposed to look at the person that's
Yeah.
doing it.
No,
because-
but when you're young, everyone does.
I just.
Well, I guess
Oh,
each
yeah,
person.
that's what Leonard
internalizes.
Nimoy said, how
Yeah.
he got the,
Yeah,
Yeah,
his,
live
That's
on
what
the
he does.
process.
yeah, that,
yeah,
That
it's
was
basically
so
the
funny.
hands together.
Yeah.
yeah,
But that represents the Sheen,
Yeah.
which is the
Shin,
name
the
of God,
Shaddai.
the name of God.
Yeah, the name Shaddai is what it represents in that.
So when he says, I put my name on you, that's what the Kohen's doing.
Yeah.
God's
Well-
name on you.
Well, his
There's
name
some-
puts his name on you also, which is in your DNA.
Right.
The DNA, the 32 strands in the DNA, you have 10 strands, then you have a double carbon block separating the 10 strands, then you have 5 strands, and a double carbon block,
Wow.
then 6 strands, then a double carbon block,
Wow.
then another 5 strands, and double,
Hey, yeah, okay.
and that's 32 strands, which spells Yud Hey Vav Hey.
That
Just
is
like any
so-
true artist, God signs every one of his masterpieces. That's
One
how I
of the
look
reasons
at
I love being in Alyssa's class is because she's just always gone in deep detail, like why the 4 and the blocks. and
Yeah.
She goes into so much detail about all that stuff, but we just sit there for 7 hours listening all week, and it's like
Mhm.
there's no application because there's no group of people that you're with, and
Yeah.
we just learn what things are.
Mhm.
And
That's one thing that Messianics don't seem to do, is it definitely, wearing them.
yeah,
Even-
well, there's like what I'm seeing with not, some, but not all, is like when we went to the concert, it was so churchy.
Mhm.
I was just so shocked because I was expecting Messianics to be more Jewish, but they're not. But I have found that now when I was in Dallas, it's different. There was a huge Jewish community.
Well, there's a lot of variety even in Jewish communities, and,
Well, it was the
And-
largest Jewish synagogue in Dallas.
right.
And,
Well, the largest synagogue in New York is Central Synagogue, which is a Reformed
That's not the
synagogue.
oh,
And-
Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes the way they do their services, you feel like you're in a church.
now you feel like you're at a woke place.
yeah.
Definitely
I've
was.
listened to them, so they are.
See, that's the one thing that is so upsetting, and that's how God gets us offended between each other, is because when you first get in this, and you're so excited, we have friends like this one worked in the movie industry in California, and people that he worked with were Jewish, and as soon as he thought, wow, Shabbat Shalom, they were so good, it's like, all right. And then then there would be, it was just like, there was just, like the enemy tries to set up such an offense in every way.
Yeah,
And, but the hardest thing of all that has just been so discouraging is the Bible overall, the Torah overall.
yeah,
It's about love. It's about instructions. It's
Yes.
about you do this, you don't do that. You don't kill people. you don't kill babies, you know what I mean, you love your brothers.
Yes.
And so when in reality in America, there's just this huge liberal section, it just doesn't compute, and you're just like, how can the people of the Bible are picking things that are so against life, you
Yeah,
know?
I know.
And that was real hard, and so the enemy's done everything they can to separate us, but.
Yes. You want again the Orthodox in Judaism, which is very strict, no variation, and then the ones that do the variations go off to an extreme with it. The Orthodox don't fully recognize the Reform and the Conservative.
Right, and I don't either. I visited the conservative here at Yom Kippur, and I was just shocked
Mm-hmm.
at the conversation, because they were all talking and stuff before and after, stuff like that, and I was like, this is so liberal, I cannot feel anything
Yes.
conservative. It says conservative, but you know what I mean, a conservative mindset, meaning
No.
you are God.
You won't find that in the liberal Reform synagogue. You'll find that in Orthodox
It's
synagogue.
kind of like, you look at it, it's just human nature. You have Sunnis and Shiites. You
Yeah.
have Catholics and Protestants.
The only thing that
You
us,
know, it's all that way.
the only thing that us as, you know, like who believe in Yeshua, the only thing that attracts us, I mean, like coming to Torah, is gonna be ultra-Orthodox or Orthodox, because we just can't even comprehend. Conservative and Reform is so far outside even the church basic.
Just as a reminder, in conservative, there's a wide spectrum.
Now, that's true.
Some of them are virtually indistinguishable from
Right.
Orthodox. They have drifted way too much in recent years, but there are still some that are.
Yeah.
But the ones you see are gonna be like, you know, like in town, you know, I dance with the people, and Dallas was the same way. I mean, the
Yeah. You have
Similar.
extremes in everything. The Orthodox one, the extremes is that we have deep respect for the rabbis going back to the 2nd century or before, 1st century, Rabbi Akiva, Maimonides, Nachmanides, Rambam, Hillel, Shammai, and because of that, if we accept something they say, no one anymore is willing to look at it again and question.
yeah.
And with new things we've learned, maybe some of those things need to be adapted a little because we have a broader understanding of the world and the universe that God created than back then.
Because the Torah.
They may have had, they may have had a deeper spiritual connection from back then, but they had less knowledge about the world at the same time. And sometimes you need to combine, like in Q Gardner's friend that I speak to every week and do a Torah study with. They won't, you know those lights you put on your garage that will automatically turn on when your car pulls up? They won't put those in their area because if someone walks past on Shabbat, they're turning on a light, even if they're not doing it with a switch. But I've never heard anyone question about, you go, you wash your hands or you take a shower or you wash a dish using hot water, that hot water heater is kicking on
You
also.
use cold water on Shabbat.
Yeah,
You don't even use the hot water, and you can't take a shower on Shabbat either. So you have to pick and choose. If you don't want to live like that, then you're automatically going to be not Orthodox.
yeah.
Right.
And there are subtleties there.
I think the problem is, I'm sorry, go ahead. Answer that question.
Yeah, wouldn't it be safe to say that the love that the Torah demands is a holy love,
Yes.
since all God's actions and attributes are governed by holiness?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the world's gone wrong. It's not paying any attention to it.
We're forgetting the holiness
Well,
that's
just
involved.
dig into the heart of
It's
the
like-
Bible, it's about.
It's like this speaks so unorthodox now, they'll tell you. The strictness of not being able to light a fire is to the point where if they followed that out in some countries where they don't have electricity, people would die.
And I heard
Right.
that has nothing to do with the heat to warm your body,
Yeah,
because people that live in like the South Pole, people that live in extreme frigid,
yeah,
they wouldn't question, because it's life.
Yeah,
You're gonna die if you don't have.
yeah, you have to put more wood on that fire and keep it going, or else you're gonna freeze to death.
That's kind of made
But
it on
you- But there's some in the Orthodox community don't even accept that concept. But they haven't experienced that either, but if they did experience it, some of them may not survive it. Because they've been looking at God commands me not
But
to
it achieved
get to the
its
fire.
purpose.
Well,
What?
like if your air conditioner goes out and it's Shabbat, or it turns off or whatever, if the electricity goes out, so your air conditioner goes out, it's 110 degrees outside.
Yeah.
You sit and sweat. You don't adjust it. You could have had it on before Shabbat and then it's fine. But if something happens that causes it to turn off, or if the heat, either way, for whatever reason, the electricity goes off and then when it comes back on, your appliance doesn't turn back on, you sweat or you freeze.
Mhm.
I go outside or something.
Yeah, but you're
Yeah.
not gonna touch it or adjust it or
Yeah.
turn it back on.
One of the things I mentioned to the healer one time was there was some concept that was different, and it was something Rabbi Nachman said, which Breslov is, you know, a lot of that's from Rabbi Nachman,
Yeah,
and there was something that he said that I think it had to do with he said that if people like in the world after the diaspora of the
Mhm.
10 tribes,
yeah,
that if they so much as had one spark of a Jewish soul, they don't say that now, but Rabbi Nachman actually said that.
yeah,
And so I was telling her that there's a lot of opinions, but somebody made choices at some point, and
Right.
it has done its duty. It has kept Jewish people, because like,
yeah.
I'm always arguing with people, Judah's obvious who Judah is,
Mhm.
and that was important. And that was the promise he made to David. It was
Yeah.
just Judah, not the rest of the tribes. And that's what has held them together. But I
Yeah.
think now things are so different, especially October 7th till now. We're in that period that's just been such an attack on Israel in every way.
Mhm.
Anti-Semitism here in America,
Yeah,
everything.
and it may get a little worse before it gets
It's
better.
gonna get worse.
Yeah,
What I was thinking that too is it's so hard when you don't have a community doing those things.
yes,
Now, you know, I would not be opposed, like Alyssa, she's not opposed, she goes to Israel all the time. She's not opposed to keeping two sets of dishes and doing all these things. But we're in a
She
society
teaches us
here
that.
where it's hard, it would be almost impossible to follow halakha, even to understand halakha, because, you know, all the things that, you know, you gotta clean your oven, you know, you have to do other things that we wouldn't even know what to do. I mean, it'd be a total,
Yeah, if you get a mouse, you have to throw it away and get a new one.
yeah,
But when it's funny you say that, because when Steve and I first met, that was the conversation we had. I said, well, are you conservative or Orthodox? He goes, well, I go to the conservative synagogue in Knoxville. And he goes, I'm as Orthodox as I can be, not living in a community. And I have never forgotten that.
Yeah.
He said that. And I already wanted like a kibbutz, so then it kind of changed to a shtetl. Because literally, if you have the opportunity to enter into community at any level, like our group is growing, and now that, I don't know, you know, you can do it.
yeah,
You have to choose it. So it's where your heart is. Like, the
it's,
commandments are the commandments.
yeah,
The traditions are the traditions are two different things. But the actual commandments, like Shabbat, we know the basics. You keep Shabbat from sundown to sundown. You do not buy, you do not sell. You do not light a fire, you do not cook.
yeah.
There's like 7 basic things.
If you want
We
to
know
go
what they
Orthodox,
are.
you do not drive.
Yeah, now those are traditions, that's added too, but I'm just saying what it actually literally says.
Well, look at the car
There's
engines
a
creating sparks.
Right, but
You
there's
turn
a
the key, the
few-
lights go off.
Are we getting away from the lesson?
I thought it was.
Well, we sort of covered the material we're going to cover, so now we're just going off on our own
and
tangents
I
in a
have a
way.
question about that too.
Okay,
You know, because, you know, in Israel, obviously the Torah was written with the idea to the Jews of going into the country. You know, when you go in here, do
Yeah.
things a certain
Certain
way.
things,
And
not everything.
I've heard it say that halakha has to originate from Israel. That the laws have to be, you know, you can't just start making your own laws here. That-
No, but you read what it says.
But they have to,
And you
they
do
have
exactly
to
what it
originate.
says in print.
yeah,
Nothing else, everything else can be traditions or halakha or whatever, but what it says in print.
No, I'm
Exactly.
talking about halakha. I'm talking about the Jewish traditions that go, you
Traditions
know,
and
the oral law. That
Yeah,
it
they
has,
all go by the same thing pretty much. It
well,
is
but
written.
that has to, I've heard arguments that has to come from Jerusalem, from the root, from the leadership in Jerusalem.
There's a
It
reason
can't
why.
be done in New York or somewhere else. And some of the laws that even today, some of those came, you know, like in the Hasidic community, they came after 1700s, some of the laws. And you go, well, you know, they're not really,
Well, yeah,
That's why you
there's
got
some,
2 Jews, 3 opinions.
right, and I'm just saying,
you had communities that were separated from each
Right.
other. I mean, there may have been a community that was only 15 miles away, but that was a distance that, in
Right.
those days, you didn't travel a distance
Right.
that far.
one,
And so you had your one authority, and you had to treat it like, almost
Yeah,
like we're the
yeah.
only Jewish people left on the world, because you didn't have connections
Right.
with a lot of others.
that's,
And
that's,
so that became your authority.
that's kind of what I'm getting at. If
In
you've got a
every
community
village-
and a location,
Yeah,
they have, maybe that community does have the right, I think, to bind and loose certain things,
Mhm.
still obeying
Well,
Torah.
we're gonna do
An
what mine
example-
lose what's in writing though.
An example of that is during Pesach, Ashkenazi Jews can't have like rice or beans or things like that. Because in some places, there was the fear or possibly the reality that it was contaminated with wheat and things like that. So it was ruled that they cannot,
Mhm.
whereas Fardim didn't have that issue. So Moroccans have similar rules
Yeah.
as Ashkenazi. Now, Ashkenazim are still bound by that, even if they can, the way, you know, modern everything is, you can prove 100% that your rice is pure. They're still bound by those, by Jewish law, they're still bound by it.
yeah.
So,
And Sephardi won't eat broccoli. And
Yeah,
script,
yeah.
of course, there's a possibility that there might be non-kosher bug in there.
then
But
a
there's
lot
a
of-
certain
a lot of
percentage in
things.
Israel, they allow unkosher blood. I saw that this year with the, last year. But this is the thing, which to me helps us with Yeshua, is you didn't have internet, you don't have telephones, you don't
Yeah.
have communications, and all the little villages like Fiddler on the Roof would have their rabbi,
Yeah.
their butcher, their milk, and you had somebody who was authority, and that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. So a lot of people say, wherever, like Felissa will say, if you're in a congregation and everyone's wearing a head covering, don't be rebellious and don't go in there. Go somewhere else if you don't want to do that.
Yeah,
But do whatever has been said, unless it goes against the word. Whatever is in writing is in writing, and nothing changes that. And even a Jewish person's going to admit, you
Yeah.
do not change one jot or tittle. So on things that are very clear, there's many things that are very clear. You don't eat pig. I mean, you know, everybody knows what bacon and ham looks like.
Yeah.
You can get like that, but whatever is written isn't changeable. There's
mhm.
a lot
Right.
of rulings by rabbis for how many, 6,000 years or how many thousands of years that say this is what that means.
Yeah, there's interpretation.
Right,
You don't eat meat and milk, so
right.
there's different interpretations from different communities. Well, if it had meat, you wait 6 hours.
Unless it's
Some
a
would say
bird
3
because it
hours.
don't have meal.
Except
What?
that it was ruled that that falls
Right.
under it, so you don't do it. I mean,
Yeah,
like, just like your example of the congregation, if you don't like it, then you remove yourself. So if there are people who, and there were people who didn't like these rules, so they removed themselves from Orthodox.
we're pretty much finished with the
So
rest
that's
of
how-
this one. We're
started
just having
another
separate
group,
discussions.
conservative.
If you want to keep recording, you
Or
can.
not being Jewish, you know, you